Yeah, my topic will be about the theological practice in spiritual upliftment. The Upanishadic explanation about it and how Shankara justifies the explanation of the Upanishads. Before going to the topic, I want to give some brief introduction, which are explained in my slides. Yeah. I think this is the famous one, and all of you are aware. The 6 doctrines in the Indian philosophy, the Nyaya Vaisheshika and the Sankhya Yoga, Mimamsa and Vedanta. They are even called as the Purva Mimamsa and the Uttara Mimamsa. All the doctrines are addressed with the suffix called as the Darshana. The etymology of Darshana is Drishyate Anena iti Darshanam. That means it's the tool to have the knowledge. The subject is not defined here because Nyaya is a different type of tool, Vaisheshika is a different type of tool, and Mimamsas are different type of tools. So, particularly speaking about the word Darshana, it means a tool basically. And all the 6 darshanas in Indian philosophy has the same goal. They start from the same point about the eternal happiness. That was the human nature is about. Every human or every living being in the world or in the universe struggles to have the eternal happiness. No being accepts or like the sorrow or the unhappy thing. Everyone wants to be very happy in his life. So how to attain the eternal happiness is the main question in the Indian philosophy. From that point, that discussion starts in all the 6 darshanas. And the next point is really Indian philosophy a mystic tradition? If you define Indian philosophy, the word mystic as a poetic or something, yes, sure, Indian philosophy is a mystic tradition. And if you define mystic is as in something, the stories which are not happened and which are told in the Indian texts, yes, sure, Indian philosophy is a mystic tradition. And being mystic tradition is not a wrong thing, according to me. It's a great thing for being a mystic tradition. And when you see the texts in Indian philosophy, the discussions here are fully disciplined and systematically based. When an author criticizes some other texts, he maintains some discipline and criticizes the other text. When a Mimamsa author criticizes Nyaya, he maintains some discipline and they have some common rule, and based on that common rule, each are criticized from one another. So basically, to have a good knowledge and to have a perfect knowledge and to have a clear, undisturbed knowledge, I think the Sanskrit language and efficiency in Sanskrit language is very important. Until unless we are not trained grammatically in Sanskrit, it will be very difficult to understand the inner heart of the text. So this is the introduction to the Indian philosophy. And the Vedas or Upanishads, the which topic I'm going to take today, are all based on the verbal testimony. So where does the verbal testimony stands in Indian philosophy? Before that, let's see. In empirical world, what we do, there are 3 steps. Janati, Ichchati, Yadati. These are the 3 steps. First, we have knowledge about some object and we have desire about that object. And in the 3rd step, we go to attain that object. So first having knowledge, second is desire, and third is attaining the objects. Any object, even if you want to drink or if you want to have a food, these 3 steps are seen everywhere commonly. So how we get the knowledge, that is the basic thing. How the knowledge is obtained. Perception inference, verbal testimony, comparison, presumption, and non-cognition are the major instruments to have the valid knowledge. So based on these 6 items, we have the valid knowledge according to Mimamsa and Vedanta. Nyaya accepts only 4, Buddhist accepts only 1, and Sankhya accepts 3. There are different parts, but with perception, with knowledge, we can have desire, and from desire we can have, we will put effort to attain something. So this is the common process in all. When coming to verbal testimony, the Mimamsa or Vedanta, that's the Pura Mimamsa or Uttara Mimamsa, they accept verbal testimony as the ultimate. And the Vedas, the words which we see in Vedas are nothing but the verbal testimony. That is known as the Shabda Pramana. And which that Shabda Pramana, what knowledge we have obtained will be the valid knowledge. So the Vedas are considered as the verbal testimonial instrument for the valid knowledge. First, let us see the theology in Purvamimamsa. Purvamimamsa is completely about the theology. That is clear. The world is classified into 3 types: the Adhyatmika, Adhibhautika, and the Adidhaivika. The Adhyatmika means about the body. Adhibhautika means about the objects which we see around us, and the Adhidaivika is the world which cannot be seen but which can be felt. So the Purvamimamsa focuses mainly on the Adhibhautika and Adhidaivika, how to praise, how to please the Adhibhautika world, or how to praise and how to please the Adhidaivika world. This is mainly focused in the first part of the Vedas. According to the Purvamimamsa, heaven is the highest good and nothing beyond heaven. They consider the Swarga or the heaven is the ultimate goal for a man to attain, and that is attaining heaven is the ultimate happiness or the eternal happiness for a being in the world. And that can be attained by the rituals injected by the Vedas. That's the main. They call the injection is called as the word Vidhi in the Vedas. From that, he can attain the Swarga of the heaven, and that is the eternal happiness for a being, according to the Purvamimamsa. All the 3 types of rituals, that is the Nitya, Naimittika, and Kamya, 3 types of rituals are said in the Vedas. For them, they have 2 types of use. One is for the welfare of the world and for the welfare of self-help, for the self. They have 2 uses of the 3 rituals. So, to attain this, the deities, that is the Adhidaivika's subject, must be satisfied with the rituals said in the Vedas. This is the main theme of Purvamimamsa. And the second part of Vedas, that is the Vedanta or the essence of the Vedas. Why it is called the essence of the Vedas? Even the Upanishads or Vedas, they are not different from Vedas. They are called Vedanta because they are set in the end part of the Vedas, so they are called as the Veda. The word Anta, which we see in the Vedanta, has 2 types of meanings. One is the end and one is the essence. The word Anta has 2 meanings, essence and end. You can use both meanings to describe Vedanta. And the main theme of Upanishads or the Vedanta is knowledge. Knowledge is the mean for salvation or liberation or the eternal happiness. This is somewhat the opposite of the Purvamimamsa. The Purvamimamsa and the Uttaramimamsa are both completely opposite. Even though both are based on the same platform, the verbal testimony or the Vedas, their subject or their thinking differ from each other. Here in the Purvamimamsa, rituals are main, and from Uttaramimamsa or the Vedanta, knowledge is main. And their subject is the non-duality of Jiva and Atman. That's the main core topic in the Upanishads or the Vedanta. So how to attain the knowledge or the non-duality? Self-realization is the highest knowledge, and knowing the real nature of self is the main purpose of Upanishads. And to attain this, or to knowing the self, rituals are inadequate. Rituals which are said in the Pura Mimamsa or the Purvakanda or the Karmakanda, they are inadequate for us to give the self-knowledge. Then what is the way to have the self-knowledge? What Upanishads do? Upanishads does not preach anything. They say how to experience or how to examine the world. That was the Upanishads do. As we see in some other darshanas or some other thing, what they do is they preach something to do and they order something to do. Even in the Pura Mimamsa, vidhi means the order. They order us to do this one to attain something. But in Upanishads or in the Vedanta, we cannot see any vidhi or any order or any injunctions. The Upanishads just give a way or give a mark to examine the empirical world. That is the main core of Upanishads. And what is the relation between Shankara and Upanishads? Shankara is the promoter or the pioneer of Advaita Vedanta, which was pre-existing. When we see history or the tradition in Advaita Vedanta or in the Indian tradition, we can see that Shankara did not find a new darshana called Advaita Vedanta. This Vedanta was a pre-existing thing, and what Shankara did, he gave a systematic format for that arguments. So he is considered as the promoter or the pioneer of Advaita Vedanta. And what he does, like other commentaries which has been done for the Pura Mimamsa, like Bhaskara Raya or Sayana, even he does the same thing. He does not even spare a single word. Every word in the Upanishads are defined, and a single letter should not be gone waste. That is the main intention of Shankara when he when he does commentary for the all major Upanishads. And he gives a logical form to the Upanishadic explanations, and all the Upanishadic explanations are done without crossing the Mimamsa decorum. We have some rules to define the Vedas. When you explain the Veda, we have some rule. While defining Upanishads or while commenting the Upanishads, we should not break that rule. So with accepting all Mimamsa decorum, he has explained the Upanishads. The self is absolutely identical with Brahman. That is what the Upanishads are telling. And that same thing Shankara has justified in his commentary. And systematic arrangements and systematic understanding are the Upanishadic verses are done by Shankara. And my theme, what was I intended to tell them? The ignorance of the nature, that's use of theology in spiritual upliftment. What is the use of theology or the religion in spiritual upliftment? Is it necessary for us to be a religious to uplift ourselves spiritually or not? For me, I consider that being religious for the spiritual upliftment is very necessary, because the ignorance of the true nature of the self is due to the action or the rituals. We have forgotten our real nature, or the ignorance of our real nature is due to the actions or the rituals. The theological rituals or the actions which we do or the karma that defends us from having the self-knowledge. So the restriction of the knowledge which is caused by the rituals should be removed by the rituals itself. These restrictions which we see or which defends us from having the self-knowledge should be removed by the rituals itself. No other external tool is needed. By the rituals only we can remove the abstract or the restriction of knowledge. So there are two types of practices in the spiritual upliftment. One is called the Antaranga Sadhana and the second one is Bahiranga Sadhana. That is the proximate aid and the second one is remote aid. This theological practice is considered as the remote aid or the Bahiranga Sadhana for the spiritual practices. There is a verse in Upanishad, Tametam Brahmana Vividishanti Yagyena Danena Tapasa Anashakena. That is, the people who want to have the knowledge about the Brahman endeavor to know the self by means of the reciting of the Vedas and by the means of sacrifice and charity. So with all these means, one can know the real nature of the self. Rituals for spiritual upliftment, is it really possible? There is a question. When you see the Purvamimamsa, there is a Nyaya called Sanyoga Pruthakva. That is separateness with conjunction. One action which yields two results. You perform one type of action and it can yield you two types of results. In the same way, considering the same Nyaya, these rituals or these theological practices are performed in Vedanta tradition. The rituals also lead to the same result as of the generation of the effect of knowledge. Agnihotraditu tatkaryaya eva taddarshanat. The Brahma Sutra, it says that whatever is routine Vedic religious action such as Agnihotra, for instance, makes for precisely the same result. So, by performing the theological practices, one can attain the same result as of the knowledge. So the worldly deities, what they do, another phrase from Brihadaranyaka Upanishad, Tasmat yesham tanna priyam yatetan manushya vidyuhu. The worldly deities, they have their food from the theological rituals or the practices. But if a person attains knowledge, he will never perform any type of ritual. If he does not perform any type of ritual, they will not get any type of food, the worldly deities. So what they do, the world of gods is filled with with those who perform rituals. So the gods do not like that mortals should surpass them. If the human gets the ultimate knowledge, he will surpass the deities. So the deities, what they do, they bring some obstruction in the spiritual path. So to praise the gods and not let them to create obstruction for us in the spiritual path, we should perform the rituals or the theological practices. So the theological practices are main for our spiritual upliftment. And next, the end one. What is the psychological aspect of the theology? If the knowledge of self is ultimate, why the rituals are preached in Vedas? See, the Purvamimamsa or the first part of the Vedas preach rituals, and second part of the Vedas, they condemn rituals. If knowledge only is ultimate, why does the Vedas does not preach only the knowledge rather than the rituals? So there is a unique practice in Vedanta known as Adhyaropa and Apavada. That is the false superimposition followed by the retraction. Using this psychological method, the Upanishad preaches us to perform the rituals and then to leave the rituals. The self, which in reality is a pure being and free from all limitations, appears people of duller comprehension to be non-existing. The basic mind or a common man, if we go and if we say him that the self is pure and it is free from all limitations, nobody will accept. So to train him logically and to train him intellectually, what the Vedas do. So the ideas of Vedas is let them come to the proper path. First, let them come have some systematical disciplined path. Later on, we shall make them comprehend the real truth. So bringing them to a common or a proper path is the first goal of the Vedas. So the rituals are preached there. And in the second part, what they do is that comprehend the real truth. That is the real nature of the self is said in the second part of the Vedas. So this is the psychological process and psychological aspect of theology in Vedanta. And this is the main theme of Vedanta, Brahma Satyam Jagan Mithya, Jivo Brahmaiva Naparaha. That is, when we say that Jagan Mithya, it does not mean that we don't accept empirical world. We do accept empirical world. But the discussion about the empirical world in different aspect. The eternal truth, what we say, that is to be discussed. Though the eternal truth, does it exist in the empirical world or not? That is the main theme in Advaita Vedanta or the Upanishads. So thank you, Hannes, for giving the opportunity. and thank you everyone.